Today I'll read you the chapter Energy and Muscle Tone versus Relaxed Flow from my book The Black and White of Argentine Tango, Both Sides of Tango's Greatest Debates. The purpose of the book is to present both sides as honestly as possible without taking sides. You get the black, you get the white, and then you choose what shade of gray you want to use. Let's start. Energy and muscle tone versus relaxed flow. Ask a room full of tango dancers whether they think tension is good or bad in the dance, and most will say bad. Tension blocks. Tension stiffens. Tension gets in the way of connection, and yet some of the most beautiful tango you will ever see involves bodies that are anything but limp. There's something alive and grounded in the movement, something that allows the legs to move with a precision and expressiveness that pure relaxation cannot produce. The debate between higher muscle tone, muscle tension, on one side and relaxed flow on the other turns out, on closer inspection, to be less a debate between two philosophies and more a misunderstanding about what muscle tone actually is and what it can do. Energy and muscle tone. Muscle tone is not stiffness, it is not gripping or forcing or bracing against a partner. It is simply the degree to which the muscles are active and ready, organized to support movement rather than passively waiting for it to happen. When the right muscles are engaged and the unnecessary ones are released, something interesting happens. Movement becomes both more stable and more responsive at the same time. The body has a kind of aliveness to it, a readiness, that allows it to do things that a completely relaxed body cannot. And in tango, this matters enormously, because muscle tone is one of the primary tools through which two bodies communicate with each other. Here is the specific mechanism. When both partners have low muscle tone, a small movement of the leader's axis produces a roughly equivalent movement in the follower's legs. Her legs move with her axis, staying close to it, catching up just enough to keep her from falling. The result is a certain style of dancing, contained, smooth, flowing, where everything stays relatively compact. This is the style that the vast majority of social tango dancers use, and it can be genuinely beautiful. But when muscle tone increases, something changes in that relationship. The same small movement of the axis now generates a much larger movement in the free leg. The legs can project further, move faster, arrive at positions that the axis never reached. This is what makes certain movements possible that simply cannot happen otherwise. A gancho requires the follower's leg to move much further and faster than the leader's axis. A volio requires the free leg to travel a significant arc while the axis barely shifts. A follower initiating her own ocho before the leader's legs join her movement requires her legs to move while her axis stays momentarily still, close to her partner. All of these depend on muscle tone as the mechanism that allows the relationship between axis and leg to become variable rather than fixed. The men who danced tango in the old milongas of Buenos Aires were physically strong from their daily work. Carrying heavy loads at the port, walking long distances, doing the physical labor that their lives required had conditioned their bodies in ways that made muscular engagement in tango feel completely natural and effortless. When they used higher muscle tone in their dancing, they were perhaps engaging 20% of their physical capacity. It felt like nothing. The result, however, was a quality of movement and a range of communication that most modern dancers have never experienced. For someone who spends their day sitting at a desk, reproducing that same quality might require 80 or 90% of their available muscle capacity. At that level, it stops feeling like dancing and starts feeling like effort. The movement becomes blocked rather than freed, because the body is working too hard to also stay sensitive and responsive. This is why building the right physical foundation matters so much. In the Tangofulness immersions in Portugal, info at the end of the book, participants work on the specific strengthening exercises that target exactly the muscles tango requires. The ankles, the core stabilizers, the muscles of the hip and leg that allow for grounded and expressive movement. With focused conditioning, sometimes as little as a month of targeted work, the muscle tone that once felt like enormous effort begins to feel easy and natural. And when that happens, a whole new layer of the dance becomes available that was previously out of reach, not because the dancer did not understand it, but because their body did not yet have the physical resources to produce it without strain. Now, let's see the other side of the argument. Relaxed flow. There's a kind of tango that feels like water, smooth, continuous, unhurried. One movement flows into the next without sharp edges or moments of effort. The bodies involved seem almost weightless, moving through the music as if the music itself is carrying them. This quality, which dancers who love it describe as flow, is what the relaxed approach to tango is trying to find and protect. For many people, especially those who come to tango later in life or without a background in physical training, the idea of increasing muscle tone feels counterintuitive. They have often spent years in other dance contexts or in daily life trying to release holding and bracing that accumulates in stressed, sedentary bodies. Tango, at its best, offers relief from all of that. The music is beautiful, the embrace is warm, and the movement, when it is working, feels natural and easy. Being told to add muscle tone to that experience can feel like being asked to reintroduce exactly what they came to the dance to escape. There is also a genuine accessibility argument here. Tango was never meant to be an athletic discipline. The people who created it were not athletes or trained dancers. They were ordinary people who moved the way they moved in their ordinary lives, and what they created from that ordinariness became something extraordinary. Keeping tango accessible to bodies of many different kinds, at many different ages and fitness levels, is a way of honoring that origin. If significant physical conditioning becomes a prerequisite for meaningful participation, the dance loses something important about what it has always been. The relaxed flow approach also captures something real about what tango can feel like at its most beautiful. When two people are genuinely relaxed in the embrace, when there is no bracing or gripping or unnecessary muscle engagement between them, the sensitivity available to both partners can be remarkable. Small signals travel clearly. The music moves through both bodies without interference. The dance breathes. For dancers who have found this quality, it is deeply satisfying, and the suggestion that they need more muscle tone to improve it can feel not just unnecessary, but wrong. What is worth understanding, though, is that many teachers and dancers who advocate for relaxed flow are not consciously choosing one end of a spectrum. They have found their own position on the muscle tone range and are teaching that position as if it is the only correct one. They may not know that the full spectrum exists. The dancer who works only with axis movement, and the dancer who can send the followers free leg, traveling far beyond the axis, with a subtle increase in muscle tone, are not practicing different philosophies. They are using different amounts of the same tool. One has simply discovered more of what that tool can do. I hope you enjoyed that chapter of the book, The Black and White of Argentine Tango, Both Sides of Tango's Greatest Debates. You can find the book on Amazon for worldwide delivery. Just type The Black and White of Argentine Tango and allow yourself to dive deep into Argentine Tango's greatest debates.